Why are they scared to give Junker Queen the bruiser Subrole passive?
I think the stalwart passive fits her better, even though
Fits her in what way exactly? Cause bruiser makes infinitely more sense both character and gameplay wise.
Stalwart does literally nothing for Queen. Getting boops still messes up whatever ability you're using. It doesn't matter if it's an inch or a foot.
Because it might ruin her playstyle. Stalwart works really well for her super aggressive playstyle and makes it a lot harder to displace her when she goes in. Bruiser would absolutely shut her down as a tank.
Unless you've been living under a rock, Overwatch had a soft reboot in 2026. One of the main things they did was introduce subroles, and for tanks, the new subrole system was basically an excuse to cut the already existing tank passive into 3 parts. And as we all know, Queen received the stalwart passive, which gives her knockback resist and slow resist. However, ever since, her survivability has been very volatile and fragile to say the least. And that big sustain nerf due to losing the headshot resistance has led many people to want her to become a bruiser. And to be fair, this request has a substance. Junker Queen receiving a bruiser will mean she will be able to survive high burst damage a lot more consistently, which was and still is a weakness of hers. The 20% speed boost received when below half health, so 262.5 health for her, will also help a lot. One of my main complaints about Queen is how inconsistent her axe can get in higher ranks due to how strong mobility becomes and people being less stacked overall. So having the speed boost when low HP easily increases Carnage's consistency, especially when stacked with Shout. And speaking of Shout, the speed boost synergy with Shout is very strong, but it will also help her close the distance a lot more effectively on longer range maps. Meanwhile, Stalwart, being more about holding a position without the fear of being displaced, is only really good at this one thing, and doesn't even help Queen land more axes in most situations, while not covering for Queen's lack of survivability due to her low raw HP. Yes, she does have her bleeds, and is your main way of sustain, but bleeds cannot help you against long range burst damage, due to most of your sustain coming from your axe, and the unreliability of knife beyond medium range. Although Stalwart also has its own issues that I underlined in the previous video. With all of that out of the way, should Queen just become a bruiser then?
No.
Wait. So despite making these points, why do I still think Queen should stay Stalwart? Well, even though Stalwart doesn't make your engages more consistent, I'll argue Bruiser isn't that much more consistent too in the grand scheme of things. Unlike Stalwart with the constant KB resist, you only get the extra speed boost when you're below half HP, which yes, does happen more often than Queen getting slowed or booped, but there is still a threshold that must be met that you cannot fully control. And even with the headshot resist, being this low HP on Queen is enough for you to immediately explode against some high burst damage heroes anyway. It is also important not to undermine the importance of Queen having KB resist, especially during your downtime and doing your ult. But wait, what about the ult perk that just makes you completely immune to CC? Indeed, but tell that to the 20% of people who pick the shout perk instead. Jokes aside, getting displaced during your downtime can be a death sentence due to how ridiculously strong some boops are currently. But before you say, but wait, Bruiser plus JQ shout will be OP. Yes, it probably would be, but all it will achieve is Queen being stronger and more flexible during the times when she's already at her strongest, which is during shout, while what she actually needs is more flexibility overall. Something I cannot deny is that Queen needs changes, regardless if she becomes a bruiser or stays a stalwart. And this leads to the main reason as to why I think Queen should not be a bruiser, being that the changes required to make her work as a stalwart are in my opinion much more fun and skill expressive. To make her work as a stalwart, you will need to buff her, yes, but healthy buffs. For example, you will have to compensate the sustain loss for not having the headshot resist, and I would start by bringing back the 2.5x wounds. This is post-editing Nutty here. In mid-season, they actually increased the wound to 2.5. This section was recorded before mid-season, but after 2 days, I can confidently say that this buff has actually been very impactful and makes her feel a lot better. Anyways, back to the video. For Carnage's consistency, other than reverting the 1 second cooldown increase they gave it a while ago, I think the solution has been under our noses this entire time, making Soaring Stone a perk. Yes, it won't be base kit, although I won't be against making it such. Whenever you do get the perk, it will actually lead to even more consistency with your engages than the bruiser speed boost, because no specific threshold need to be met to achieve that consistency. It will just be there every time you use axe. And it will also allow you to reach new places due to giving you a little bit of verticality, something which a regular old speed boost cannot provide you. I do admit that this idea mostly helps with carnage, but not really with closing the distance. But on the other hand, if you need Queen to close the distance more effectively, you can always tune Kdenlive appropriately to compensate, rather than making a broad adjustment to her subrole with a really high chance of breaking her by accident. Or give her normal perks for once. Meanwhile, if you make her bruiser, you will likely need to nerf her, most likely shout speed boost, which yes, will reduce the potency of speed boost plus shout. It will come at the cost of making her shout engages when she isn't low HP less consistent and out of your control, and thus making her more volatile instead of more consistent. Technically, you could add Axe Sleep as a perk even as a bruiser, but in my opinion, I really don't see Blizzard adding it in a world where she already has speed from bruiser, but I could be wrong on that one. Anyway, this was a simplified overview on the whole debate. It does have more depth than what I present here, but I wanted to keep this video simple. I also do admit of being slightly one-sided in this vid, but it's not because I believe bruiser cannot work at all, I just find the alternative a lot better. And this has been my yap on the video I have 500 hours on. Hello? What? Making Queen an initiator? But she doesn't even have verticality. What do you mean she can fly with her ult? I think you've got the wrong number.